Hello guys, Lit here. So this video will be an update for the Meteor pair. I tried a bunch of setup and play around with multiple mechanic, make quite a lot of update to the build, and for the setup that I'm going to showcase on this video, I'm pretty happy with it. It feels very comfortable. The clear speed is really good. The single target is decent, not super crazy or anything like that, at least compared to all the builds that have been played before. This is like decent, it's not bad, but it's also not super crazy. And defensively, it feels very comfy. I see a lot of people still playing with Armor Energy Shield. And in my case, I just had enough with the Chaos damage. In my previous video, most of my death is coming from Chaos damage. They still hit really hard, even though I have like 60% Chaos resistance. I even put Charm on it. But it's just hit really hard and I just had enough, so I decided to go for CI. And for people who are new, CI is Chaos Inoculations. It's going to make your HP 1, but you are immune to bleeding and chaos damage. And because your life is 1, your hit pool is basically only the energy shield. So you want to stack as many energy shield as possible, and a lot of people call this a blue life. So let's go through all the upgrades because there's quite a lot of them. The first one is the CI first. So for the CI, you will need a decent amount of energy shield. In my case, I got it from my chest. These just have quite a lot of energy shield. And from the amulet, you can get increased maximum energy shield, also increased global defense, and also a abyss mod that's going to give you energy shield from equipped by the armor. These 3 mod give me a lot of energy shield. For example, if I take this off, my energy go down to 6.5k. So this amulet alone give me a lot of energy shield. And there's a bit energy shield on the Crown of Ice and also the boots, but these 2 is not that significant. And another thing about the energy shield is this keystone over here. So this is a black side training, and you can get this keystone from this unique jewel, Heroic Tragedy. And the most important part is you want it to mention the line of Varana. If you have that line, then your keystone will be black side training. And this keystone going to give you 1% energy shield per 2 strength. We now have 230, so this one give me around like 115% energy shield. So this is quite a lot of ES. And even though this is not exactly a strength build, but because we are CI, we have to go over here, which is quite a lot of stretch. And we still have to stretch down over here because we need this stretch node over here. So because we take a lot of attribute, this is the reason why I'm going for this keystone. And with the cost of 1 dual socket and 1 skill point for the keystone, 150 energy shield I think is worth it. And another thing about CI, you need to make sure that you take this node too, because when you got on the CI, your stun threshold will be very low, your element threshold also will be very low, because both of them is based on your HP, and because your life is 1, you basically don't have any of them. So this node basically converts some of that element threshold and stun threshold to your energy shield. So this is 8%, 2%, and this is 30%. So this node is really important, because if you do not take this node, you're not going to have any stun threshold or element threshold. And what's going to happen is you're going to instantly getting stunned and constantly getting freeze, shock, and ignite. And another way I get energy shield also from the jewel. This is my jewel. This is the jewel that I'm using. One is increase spell damage or increase damage while shapeshift, increase energy shield, and skill effectuations. The third one, we can go for something like crit or skill speed while shapeshift. That's also good, but recover mana on kill is also pretty nice quality of life. But the problem that going CI usually is about the sustain. So the way we're going to sustain the energy shield is using leech. So the first step, you will need a source of leech. In my case, I get it from my ring. This is going to leech physical damage as life. And then the second step, you will need Essential Sandwich. This is going to convert the life leech into energy shield leech. And the next step is on the weapon. If you see, I have a mod that damage as extra physical damage. This is really important for me because Working Calamity, which is one of the main DPS of the build, the damage is elemental. So having a mod that have damage as extra physical damage, this will give the Working Calamity a decent amount of physical damage. Like this one is 5,000 to 11,000. And the last Meteor have like 13,000 to almost 30k. So this is a decent amount. And because the Meteor hits quite a lot, there's a lot of Meteor. This end up being like a lot of small leech, which is really helpful in terms of the sustain. And there is also another option if you want to take it further. There is a node over here which is going to make 20% of your leech is instant. This is really good for a map that have less recovery, because if your map have less recovery, you do not have this node, your sustain going to be a bit slow. But the downside is this anointment is pretty expensive. It's used as isolation and also suffering. So is really depending on do you have the budget for it or not. For me, I decided not to go for it because this is really expensive. So I just decided to anoint Killer Instinct instead because this one is pretty cheap and it's a decent amount of DPS. So far I don't really have problem with the sustain because 8,000 energy shield is quite a big hit pull. So I always have a time to get away from things and I can recover elsewhere if I needed to. Most of the time, most of the enemy is dying because of the rainbows and meteor, so I don't really have a problem with that. But just in case if you want more sustain, Anoint Forastiers will be an option. And the next one is the upgrade to the DPS. The first one is the Talisman. This Talisman gives me a lot of DPS. I think I bought this around like 12 or 13 divine. You probably can craft this a lot cheaper than that, but in my case, I just bought it. I think Captain Lance also have a video on how to craft this talisman, so you can check his channel for that. And the next one is Battle Vengeance. This super gem is really good for build that using a lot of rage, because if you freeze a target with the skill, it will give you extra cold damage based on how many rage you have. In my case, I have 88 maximum rage. So this gives me 88% extra cold damage, and that's a lot of DPS and that's a lot of cold damage. And to freeze a target, in my case, I'm using it on Furious Slam. It's actually not that hard if you have enough DPS, of course. The first thing is you want Embither. Embither is going to convert all the damage extra from all the type become cold damage. So for example, like in my weapon, this is extra physical damage, and Embither will convert that into cold damage. So my Furious Slam actually have a decent amount of cold damage, and this make the Furious Slam can consistently freeze the target. So most of the time for mapping, this is always up. And I also support them with cold attunement for more cold damage. You can also go for something like freeze if you need more freeze buildup. And there's also a bunch of nodes on the tree that can help you with that, which is this one, increase mobilization, immobilization, also including freeze. And there's also 3 nodes over here you can take. This gives you a little bit DPS, but also immobilization buildup. So this 3 node is pretty good for that. And the next upgrade for the DPS is on the helmet. Now, the helmet is a trade-off because Crown of Ice is going to give you more DPS, but Rare Helmet will give you a lot more ES because you can get quite a high number of ES on the helmet. So you have to choose between you want more DPS or do you want more defense. In my case, I choose to go for DPS, so I'm using Crown of Ice. The important line from Crown of Ice is increase and reduction to spell damage, also apply to attacks. And this basically make a notable like this, which have spell damage and attack damage. This basically means 20% increase attack damage because the spell damage is going to apply to attack damage too. So the hybrid node like this will become really good with Crown of Ice. And there's also this cluster over here which basically gives spell damage, which normally not going to give you anything, but the notable is actually pretty good. 20% increase spell damage that converted into attack damage, and you also get 50% skill effectuations, which is really good for the Working Calamity. And the big node will be the Mythical Rage, going to give you 2% increase spell damage per rage you have. In our case, we have like 88, so this is a lot of increased spell damage. So that's the Crown of Ice. And for the Socketable, you don't really have to use 2 Socketable. In this build, I think we have quite a lot of skill effectuation already, so the most important part is the maximum rage on the helmet. You want to get this +4, and if you can get an extra socket, then go for the skill effectuations. And there's a new patch yesterday, which basically fixed the problem with the Working Calamity. Before that patch, Working Calamity doesn't work when you switch weapon, because when you switch the weapon, the Working Calamity is going to go off. Now they have already fixed that, so that means we can use weapon set 1 and 2. In this case, weapon set 2 is mostly about skill effectuation, like this one over here. There's 3 node over here, skill effectuation over here, and also skill effectuation over here. And this basically make the Working Calamity last very long. In my case, my Working Calamity is 43.8 seconds. Now, this not exactly translate to power. In my opinion, this is more about quality of life, because the longer your Working Calamity going to be active, that's mean less downtime you're going to have, because you still have to recast the Working Calamity every time it goes down, and you have to build up the Glory and all that stuff. So make it last really long is really nice for mapping. I don't really think we need like 43 seconds. We'll probably fine with like 30 to 35 maybe. So there is a argument to be made. For examples, like for a gem like this, instead of going for skill effectuations, we can go for a dual leg like this, which is going to give you attack damage and damage while shapeshift, and also skill speed while shapeshift. And this is more offensive versions of the dual, but of course on the Sapphire you can get energy shield, so you know it's give and take, but we probably can sacrifice a little bit skill effect durations because the duration of the Walking Calamity is already really high. Now, another change that I made is also I do not use Scepter anymore because I just do not want to care about the reservations. My Spirit reservation is Overwhelming Presence and Head Out of Us. And I do also have Precisions, which is going to basically fix the accuracy problems. And Clarity give us a little bit more extra mana regions that's going to convert it into race region. And if I using Scepter, I have to recalculate all of this again, and I just do not want to deal with it. And some of you probably going to ask, why not using Convalescence? This is a skill that every energy shield build will use. I don't know why, maybe this is just about the bear, but when you click the Convalescence when you're on bear forms, it's going to start the regenerations, but you do not get the buff. So the buff is immediately gone. I have no idea why this is the case. So for now, I just drop the Convalescence because it just doesn't really make sense to use them if the buff is not even active. But if the buff is active and it's running properly, I probably will change the Overwhelming Presence with Convalescence because Convalescence is really good panic buttons. So for example, like if you're in the middle of the mobs and there's a big hit incoming, you can press your Convalescence and your energy is going to regen up, and any damage that hit it not going to stop it. So the buff is what makes the Convalescence really good, and right now it's not working. So that's the reason why I'm not using Convalescence. And another question is probably on the Bard skin. Why not using Bard skin? Bard skin is pretty good, but I think Bard skin have a cap of 1000 armor, if I'm not wrong. So when I use this, I don't feel like it gives a lot. So that's the reason why I'm not using Bard skin. Like, it's a little bit tankier probably, but it's not significant enough to justify the 30 spirit reservations. While Overwhelming Presence, you can definitely feel the difference because you're going to stun enemy easily, you're going to freeze enemy easier. So right now, my choice is going to Overwhelming Presence, but if you want to try Bard skin, that's also fine. It does provide some defense, I just don't think it's significant enough. And as for the skill, I do put a support gem on Maul, and I do have them on my shortcut because sometimes the rampage is really depending on the terrain. So for example, like if you're fighting boss and the boss is like near the wall, using rampage can be a little bit difficult because you have to move around. So sometimes I will use Maul because the damage of the Maul is still pretty good. Although I think the Rampage still deal way more DPS than Maul. But Maul is something that you can easily use on like any situation. So I just decided to put support gem on Maul. So depending on the situation, I will either use Rampage or I will use Maul. And for the Walking Calamity, now I have Arcata Flow. This is really expensive. If you do not have the currency, just go for the Fire Penetration and you'll be fine. And for the equipment itself, there is one slot that I'm not 100% sure, and that is Belt. In terms of mapping, probably just better to go for like something like Headhunter. This is just a belt that I put in here because it's decent, it's cheap, so I just use this one. So I think that's all about it. I think I explained everything I need to explain. And as usual, if you guys have any questions about the build, just leave in the comment below. I will try my best to answer all of them. And thank you everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. And I will see you on the next one.